Well, the reason I brought you that book is that if you can get someone to think like they're going to be a millionaire, it will change their behavior. What happened was it kind of had a prophetic word that I would be successful. So I saw myself that way. I could change my behavior to make the sacrifice. Just like the Bible says, without vision, people cast off restraint.
One of the core things I remember from that book was the average millionaire that stays consistently a millionaire
Right.
drives an F-150. All right, welcome back to the Built for Profit podcast. I am so fired up to have Mr. William McKenzie on as a guest today. One quick note about William. Actually, William, the first time we met, I was shortly out of college, living a heathen life, and William was just honestly a massive spiritual leader in my life in that season. He just kind of dove in a little bit of a season ahead of me. Coming out of college and just invested in a few guys that were living a little worldly, and was doing a small group with a bunch of 22 and 23-year-olds. And he had a massive impact on my life and really kind of got me involved in church after college, got me involved in loving Jesus and loving Jesus for who he is. And so William's had a big impact on my life, and I am super pumped to talk to him today. Obviously, he's done a lot of things and a lot of things from business, from church, and all kinds of stuff. So, William, welcome to the podcast, man. I'm fired up to have you here.
Thank you, brother. That's so fun. I still remember moving the beer cans off the ping pong table to have a Bible study. So that was.
That's exactly right. And William was willing to come to a rental house full of guys to invest in them and see potential in them. And I love it, William. So thank you so much. Well, cool. Well, honestly, just to get us started, if you wouldn't mind, I'd love to just kind of tell your story a little bit. Just give us a little, intro into who William is and how you got to where you're at today.
Sure. I was just a fraternity guy at Ole Miss, kind of like you were at Auburn. And I met the Lord between my junior and senior year at one summer, and then radically changed. Just had one of those born again experiences and kind of decided to live the rest of my life for him. Then I met my wife shortly after that at Ole Miss, and then I went to law school. We got married in law school, moved to Birmingham, and served God with all my heart. But I loved being a lawyer, and I loved making money. I loved investing. I loved it all. I loved leading small groups with guys like you guys,
Yeah.
and so whatever I did, I was all in on. And so now I'm 45 years old, which is crazy, and kind of living my best life. And I
So
think that's kind of encouraging to the younger people. Life can get better as you get older, and if you do it right, I think.
yeah, that is I love, because you obviously coming from Ole Miss, me coming from Auburn, I can't tell you how many people that I met in that season that told me these are the best 4 years of your life.
Mm.
I remember thinking like, man, I'm kind of scared if these are the best 4 years of my life. I was having a lot of fun down there, but that was a fearful thing for me even leaving college. And I just love hearing you say that way. It just gets better with time as you get older and older and older.
Hmm.
So I love that so much. Very cool. Well, okay, so diving into your business and how you serve people, I'm curious, can you just give us a little idea of like ideal client, who you serve, what that process looks like?
Yeah, so I mean, I serve Fortune 100, Fortune 500 companies now as my kind of my bread and butter. I work for some insurance companies too, who send me assignments where their insurers get sued. But I'm on the defense side of litigation, so I'm a trial attorney. I've done it for about 20 years, and started my own firm about a year ago because I just wanted to do things a little bit differently. A lot differently. I wanted to move fast. I don't want to have votes on everything I wanted to do. I had kind of big vision, and it got to the point where I had two types of fuel, really. I always had the types of fuel that I wanted to be successful. I think most people have that. But then I got the second type of fuel that made me want to just get away from where I was and do something different.
Yep.
And when those two things came together, I just couldn't sleep at night. I was so fired up about making changes. And that's kind of what happened about the last 2 years that led up to the launch a year ago.
Love it. That's fantastic. So tell me, I guess, as you're building this out, early stages, I guess still early in your business journey, what does it look like what are you dreaming about in the future? 5 or 10 years, what does that look like? What does William and his firm look like, 10
Well,
years
it's
from now?
interesting. I mean, I wish I was more had more vision, in a way. I'm just so content. It sounds crazy to say. I'm just so grateful, just to be where I am now. I was happy with the day after I launched. I realized I wanted about half of my clients to come with me, and I'd done the metrics. I needed about 3.3 cases to come in a month. I felt like to make a good living and be independent. And then, everything quadrupled in the next 10 months. Like, I had 4 times the clients, 4
Wow.
times the revenue. Every month it's just been going, going, going. I've just hired 11 people now in a year.
Wow.
So yes, it's been scaling out and growing. But I was content. I don't care if it gets any bigger now. I mean, it's just I'm grateful. So I kind of view it through the lens of stewardship. I don't
Yeah.
want to say, okay, this is enough for me, but it's also not about the money. And
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
say this just to be honest. I mean, I paid my house off when I was 40. And my wife and I were very fiscally conservative. We lived below
Yeah.
our means. We were grateful. And we've invested. We had the kids' college funding the day they were born. And I know I was blessed, I guess, to have a high income job where I could do that. So I'm not putting them to everybody else. My point
Yeah.
was, it wasn't about running the scoreboard up when I launched the firm. It was just about, man, I can do more.
Yeah.
And now that I'm doing that, 5 years from now, I just want to be able to say the same thing, that I did the best job with what the opportunities God gave me.
Yeah.
So I guess to answer it more granularly, I do have I have a Mississippi office and an Alabama office right now,
Yep.
and I'm working on the centralized system here, with AI and staff and formalizing all kinds of different systems, right? So it's
Mhm.
scalable. And so once I get that, I'm almost 80% of the way there. I've already started thinking about opening a Florida and a Georgia office just to,
Wow.
just to expand our footprint,
Yeah.
which I think wouldn't take a whole lot more bandwidth for me as the leader, but would obviously be a multiplier for revenue and client service.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. Okay, the couple things I want to bring up, definitely want to talk about AI shortly, just because I know you and I have talked
Sure.
about that in the past. But the first point I think you made, I remember this was 15 years ago when you were investing in that small group. I mean, probably more than that now. But one of those books that I remember reading with you in one of those small groups, because you were with us for multiple years, was Millionaire Mindset.
Um,
And so you brought that. So funny for me thinking back how intentional you were, even as a young 20-year-old that I was. And that was obviously well before you were 40 as well. And
mhm.
you just had this discipline and these principles that was one of those books I would assume that kind of like pointed you a little bit in that direction. But can you kind of speak to a little bit from a financial standpoint, how you were like, how y'all acted in your 30s in order to pay down your house by 40, because that was just a huge thing that you wanted to do in your life?
Right. Well, the reason I brought you that book, is that if you can get someone to think like they're going to be a millionaire, it will change their behavior.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So let me back up real quick. So when I was in high school, I just bush hogged and rode a tractor. Grew up in Mississippi, small town. But a buddy of mine had an uncle from Manhattan who was very wealthy. And one time he wrote me a note. He paid me $100 like a day to go out there and work on his farm. And one day he wrote me a letter with the $100 bill. It says, "You're gonna," he's like, "to a future millionaire." I remember when I read that, it changed my brain mapping.
Yeah, that's
And
awesome.
then I received a prophetic word in my 20s from this Max Navarro. He's a kind of a well-known prophet. I'm actually hosting him at my house this week for the first
Wow.
time after, because this happened like so long ago. I was like, I want other people to get this, but what happened was it kind of had a prophetic word that I would be successful. So I saw myself that way. I could change my behavior to make the sacrifice. Just like the Bible says, without
Mhm.
vision, people cast off restraint.
Yeah.
Once I got that vision from the Millionaire Mind book that I shared with you guys, and the same guy wrote The Millionaire Next Door, but the way millionaires actually acted to get that way was living below their means. They had a supportive spouse.
Yep.
Most of them did a pretty hard workout every day, like
Yep.
fucking, you know, physically. There's some other multipliers there too, but so that was the key. And then we just didn't keep up with the Joneses. We didn't
Yeah.
worry about joining country clubs or leasing BMWs. We pay cash. I drove my old Chevrolet Silverado for 12 years,
Yep.
that kind of thing.
I love it. And in fact, just mentioning that, I literally, one of the core things I remember from that book was the average millionaire that stays consistently a millionaire
Right.
drives an F-150. They're not
Yep.
driving some, BMW or Porsche or whatever. I just think, and once again, it goes back to like investing in assets and not investing in things that just pull money from your pocket. So
That's
I
right.
love that mindset. William. That's so powerful to be able to pay off your house by 40. I love that so much. Well, cool. Okay. So obviously, as you're thinking about expanding, what do you feel like? Well, before we talk about AI, jumping into, you've seen exponential growth, obviously,
Okay.
since you launched, but what's been, you feel like, is the biggest driver for that? Is that just like consistently serving people with excellence, or
Mhm.
like, what does that look like for you from the growth that you've seen?
Well, I think it's just my internal fire. The God has given me this enthusiasm for it. So when I see all these companies, I don't say that's my hit list. Those are the people I'm going to go get to be my clients. I say, man, those people need me. They
Yeah.
just don't know. I mean, gosh, I could help them
Yeah.
get better results, save money, make money. And so it's almost like when you view yourself as this servant who has the cure for cancer, when you meet people, you draw them in like a lighthouse instead of shining on them like a flashlight, you
Yeah,
know?
that's so good.
Yeah, so that's made a big difference.
Yeah, that and honestly, because I think you were reading some sales book last time we talked a few months ago that and I can't remember the name of it, but I remember you talking about that of just like the whole and once again, it's the mindset shift of how you approach anything that you're like trying to present and serve people in. So can you
Mhm.
speak to that a little bit more? I guess from I love the lighthouse versus the flashlight
Yeah,
analogy.
I've been I gave a talk on this like last week at a big national conference. I use that analogy. That's why it's fresh in my mind. But the idea is that, most people project themselves onto their clients, onto everyone else. Like I think like a police officer shining a flashlight. What's going on here? What seems to be the problem here?
Yeah,
And instead, this, especially when I had teenage daughters, you have to change your approach.
yeah.
You have to draw them in like a lighthouse. I got that analogy from the Strong Father, Strong Daughters book
Oh,
that
cool.
written by
Okay.
this psychologist female who's awesome. And so I learned that that principle works with everyone. Instead of trying to change them, it's almost like that's how Jesus lived in a way.
Yeah,
He didn't go in and just chase people down. He drew them in.
yeah.
And so that's what I do with my clients. That's what I do with my team that works for me. And I'm just trying to be this positive, consistent, present guy who has enough humility and enough self awareness that people are attracted to that. And then sales, I guess if you call it sales or get new clients or get new business, that just is a byproduct of being a genuine person, I
Yeah,
feel like.
yeah. That's so good, William. I love that. Definitely going to add that to the list on the book to read. That's because we just obviously had our first little girl. She just turned
Great.
1 earlier this month,
Awesome.
which has been so much fun, man. Me and my wife have just been crying our eyes out, so that's the best. But it's great. Okay, so obviously you've seen the growth. What do you feel like currently right now, kind of the biggest bottleneck or the biggest hurdle you're trying to jump over in business that can like the next problem you're trying to solve?
Well, for me right now, it's AR. Our
Yeah,
revenue is increasing each month, which is a great thing.
yeah, yeah,
But I've learned that revenue and cash flow are not the same thing for me.
yeah, exactly.
And again, I've been this crazy Dave Ramsey anti-debt guy my whole life, and almost to a fault. I mean, you could run the numbers. I would agree with you. I would have been better off probably investing the delta and not paying my house off with that 2.875 interest rate. But psychologically, it gave me this freedom and this boldness to go out and start my own firm and
Yeah,
do all
that's
this
great.
other stuff that,
Yeah,
yeah. So, but with that, I'm anti-debt, so I don't want to hit my line of credit here at the firm. Never had. I trusted God just to bootstrap it.
yeah,
So I've had a big problem, I feel like, because as my payroll grows, hiring all these people, I mean, I'm not down to zero, but like I have so much money in AR.
yeah,
And so I've trusted my staff to do it and I've incentivized them to collect AR. But even still, this week I had to hire an outside person, thousands of dollars to come in and do an audit because I'm not going to just sit here and hopefully it works out. I mean,
yeah,
you got to tackle it and cut the head off the snake. So
yeah,
it's just, man, spending so much money, honestly, just trying to get ahead of problems in my business and investing back in the firm,
yeah,
not only with outside services but with AI, like we'll talk about in a minute.
yeah, yeah. Do you so, I'm curious, and this kinda walks into the AI world a little bit. Ha obviously, there's kinda uniqueness about the law world and how people pay and the softwares that they pay through and all the different, legality, I guess, behind that. Have you seen anything in the industry that is almost like a Netflix auto draft on the same day every month type thing, retainer thing, or is that or is you think that's coming in the future, or
Yeah.
what are your thoughts there?
Very astute of you. That is coming. That's going to be the disruptor, and I want to be on the front end of that disruption.
Yeah,
I think the billable hour is going to go away because so much of what they used to pay us law firms to do is now you can just drop stuff into AI and get medical records summarized in a matter of minutes instead of
yeah,
paying a paralegal hours, right,
yeah,
to
yeah,
do
yeah,
our lawyer hours. So with that's going to come the bucket of services is going to shrink of what lawyers actually provide. You're going to have, I feel like my firm's going to be situated well because we're running pretty lean and we focus on hiring trial attorneys who you're going to need a human being in a courtroom one day.
yeah, exactly.
But those other things are going to shrink and is going to result in clients wanting to commoditize the legal services industry with flat fees, with alternative fee arrangements where maybe you get a percentage back of what you save them, and whoever can figure that out and make it automatic is going to make a lot of money.
Yeah, 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 for sure. Okay. No, that's very, very neat. Okay, so like diving into the AI world, I'm curious just from well, the second question would be I'm curious what you're currently leveraging right now, But first question is, think back 15, I mean, you've been in the law world for a while now, but think back 15 plus years ago, and were there certain things that people were paying for labor to go do that now is not really a thing anymore in the law firm world? Or is it still in
Yeah.
that transition phase of AI still kind of like tip of the iceberg type thing?
It's still transition. I mean, the legal industry is notoriously slow to adopt technology and to
Okay.
change because they like it the way it is. And you have the old school gray headed, generation. I'm kind of in between. I'm like a middle-aged lawyer, but the generation above me, which is still practicing, is very hard-headed, very
Yeah.
reluctant to change. And so then the kids younger than me, they do this stuff. They've had Chat GBT since they've had a phone almost.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
they're native to it's native to them, right? But yeah, so besides document review, besides even drafting forms, I do litigation. But the people who do like wills and trusts, all
Yeah.
that's even when I started my own LLC last year, I just used AI, did it in a matter of minutes. I
Yeah.
wouldn't have paid a lawyer to do that.
Yep.
So much stuff I used to pay an accountant to do, I do myself.
Yeah.
I was a finance major, so I like the numbers, but you get
Yeah.
it. So with that, you're going to be more selective in what you actually pay expertise for.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, just quick story behind that one. I remember texting you about a operational agreement for Flywheel. I mean, this was, when we just got started 2.5 years ago, and you were like, "Man, just get on ChatGPT and ask," and it created for me in 2 minutes. I think you were even on the forefront of ChatGPT before I
Yeah,
was. It's so much fun to just have these conversations. In fact, we just created our first will since our daughter's been born, and I literally did the whole thing on ChatGPT as well. It's pretty
absolutely.
powerful, man. That's
Yeah.
that's wild. Okay, so how are you currently leveraging AI right now in your firm?
Well, I mean, we have some proprietary stuff we're working on. I hire an outside AI guy to come help me.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah, and I have really smart guys, just we know from our church and small group that are just starting their own thing. We almost like trade advice with each other. We don't even charge each other. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
that's
Like it's
great.
a
The barter
win-win
system, baby.
relationship thing. And so then we have like Westlaw. That's an old school subscription service that provides lawyers. They have a co-counsel AI. Then, as you know, I mean, Microsoft just has Copilot that has integrated ChatGPT 5 into it, so
Yeah.
it's everywhere. What I would say helps the most, though. See, I'm a communicator, and you always heard clarity is kindness. So if you have to go
Yeah.
fire someone, be really clear with them.
Yeah.
Hey, this is not. But also, I was guilty. This is something I've really not been great at. I will call you, Austin, about something I'm anxious about, and just ramble for 10 minutes, and then I would ask you to pull out the nuggets of what's really bothering me. Well, now I'll get on Chat GPT and kind of air it out for a few minutes,
Yeah.
then call you and say, "Hey, here's a salient point I'd love your counsel on, Austin." And that's clarity is kindness because I'm not wasting everybody's time. And
Yeah.
I'm practicing what I'm going to say before I say it. That has made me so much more like a scalpel and less like a broadsword, and
That's so
much
good.
more effective in written communication and spoken communication in every relationship that I have.
Yeah, that is fantastic. Just a principle to live out with. I've actually
Mhm.
heard talked to some other friends that they literally will just like if they're contemplating something or trying to get clarity on something, they'll just take their phone, go on a walk around the office,
Yeah.
and talk to ChatGPT like it's a person. And
Yeah.
tell it to ask questions of how do you give me more clarity into what I'm thinking and what I just dumped down on you, and literally have this conversation with it.
It's great. I remember like my dad was a lawyer when I was growing up. I'd see him outside. He smoked cigars. He'd be out there for an hour. I would just see him talking to himself. And finally one day I said, "Dad, why are you talking to yourself out there? Are you praying or what?" He's like, "William, there's nothing wrong with practicing what you're going to say before you say it." I was
That's
like,
so good.
"Wow." He was the wisest guy I ever knew. So he would do that. He would just practice the way he was going to say things before he said them. It's like,
Yeah, that's so good, William. I love it. I love just the principles from the people that were ahead of you in different seasons, whether it's a guy giving you $100 bills with the millionaire. I just love that so much,
yeah,
and
that
people
cool.
investing in you. Yeah, that's super good. Okay, so real quick, kind of diving real into business before we wrap up. Is there anything that you feel like as an owner in the legal world or just unique to your law firm that are like KPIs that you consistently look at on either like a weekly basis, bi-weekly, monthly? What is there any kind of rhythm that you've built from something that like gives you the scoreboard of your business?
Man, we do. I mean, this is another thing about great AI tech. So I use Clio. I'm not trying to give it a free plug. It's CLIO, but it's a billing software.
Yep.
Compared to every other ones I've ever used in my career, it's an absolute game changer. It gives me an owner dashboard every day. I can see what the firm's doing, what the lawyers are doing, what I'm doing personally. And I go for billed versus collected revenue. I look at all my AR aging buckets, the attorney realization rate, and and staff utilization. And those things let me know those are my key performance indicators. I
Yeah.
look at that, I know where we're going. And then the main thing I'm looking at, this kind of goes by feel, is that I ask my question, am I working in the business or am I working on the
Yeah.
business?
Great question. Yeah.
Because if I'm working on the business, then I've removed the bottleneck, which is me.
Yep.
Man, we're gonna expound exponentially.
Yeah. That's so good. I love that. So how do you gauge the in versus on? Do you do like a time audit or do you
Mhm.
kind of review your week or how are you
Yeah.
feeling to kind of get a good gauge of where you're at?
Well, you gave me the book Buy Back Your Time,
Yep.
and I had to read it a few times because it was just like challenging to me. I didn't want to delegate because I'd gotten where I was by just being a really good lawyer, but that wasn't going to get me where I needed to go. I had to start
Yep.
delegating, being present, and trusting. As that book says, 80% done by someone else is 100% awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
So I started delegating that, and
Yeah.
it took me honestly, it was only 2 months ago when I really started getting my bandwidth back. When I mean
Yep.
I could visioneer and think and have time to do an extra workout and do all these sleep more, be with my wife more, all this stuff that I had not been able to do in the first 9 months of starting the firm.
Yeah.
The bandwidth started coming back, which means I started getting ideas for the quarterly newsletter I just started for all
Yeah.
my clients to just stay in front of them, to prepare an hour PowerPoint keynote that I'll probably give 3 times in the next 2 years at different
Yeah.
conferences. And so to me, that when that creative flow started coming back, that flow state, it got me out of survival mode. That was my indicator that I've hired enough people, I've delegated enough now that I have the bandwidth back to work on the business and not just
Yeah.
in the business.
That's so good, William. I love hearing that, man. I think, and honestly, at least what I've experienced, I'm sure you experience the same thing. It's like in every season, there's more ways to delegate more as you
Mhm.
continue to grow, and like especially as the Lord blesses you and continues to
Yeah.
increase the stewardship side. So I love that so much. Well,
I'll add
okay, so
one thing, and
yeah,
this
go
you'll
for it.
love this. Okay. I feel like the key thing for me, I didn't even anticipate this when I started the firm. But what happened to me, I was always dreaming about starting my own firm, but it wasn't until I met this mentor who was a believer at another conference. He's from out of state. He's about 6 years ahead of me. He shared with me his Excel spreadsheets of when he first started his firm. And when I saw those numbers and how he made it work, my brain mapping changed and I could see the path.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So that was key for me.
that's
So
big.
here's what I didn't realize though. The Lord has brought me a couple other young lawyers who want to start their own firms. And I've been mentoring them, sharing my financials with them. And I feel like that outflow of pouring into them has helped me have an inflow into my own life. Just like it's like the proverb says, those who refresh others will be themselves
Yeah,
refreshed.
so good.
Man, helping other people start their own business has given me so much insight and momentum in my business that I
Yeah.
felt like if I was just hoarding it all, I'd be more stagnant. And I don't know why that is, but it's undeniable, even though it's unexplainable.
Well, William, I mean, like to me, one of the biggest principles behind what you just mentioned is that when people genuinely feel you want what's best for them, which is if their dream is to start their own business, they will do whatever to help serve you as well,
Mm,
right? And so
mm.
that's a beautiful part of, and it's not to manipulate by any means, but it's literally saying like, truly want what's best for you as a human and a believer on this planet. And
Yeah,
so like they literally going to give you their best because you're going to help them get there.
that's
And I
right.
think that's just such a beautiful thing. I've heard it said time and time again, when you're building a company, the vision that you're building has to incorporate every single person on your team's dreams inside of that vision.
That's right.
And
Yeah, if
so
there's
it's
one lesson we take away from Jesus, I tell my kids this, is that you're going to serve your way to every breakthrough.
yeah, that's great. That's
And
so
so
good.
it's no different in business. We're just going to serve our way to our breakthrough. And we don't do it because of that, but that's
Yeah.
just the path that's the way we're designed to do it. It's the way the world works.
Yeah, that's so good, Will. Okay. Is there any other thing that you're just kind of fired up right now in this season or anything that we haven't talked about yet that you'd like to mention?
No, I'm just grateful. I mean, I never thought I'd be sitting here on a podcast talking about a successful business because I was just content where I
Yeah.
was, but I'm just grateful, man. I'm kind of pinch myself still.
Well, I mean, just from looking, I mean, for the time that I've known you since obviously being super young, but it's just fun to see the Lord's hand on your life, dude. It's just like I just think He's just continuing to divinely push you in the direction that you're going in and giving you favor in your life, and obviously that comes with discipline and integrity and character and all the things that you've been living for decades and decades. So super grateful for you, Lim. The last thing really, I guess, for to kind of wrap up, what's the best place if someone wants to reach out to you, if they see this podcast, like to get in touch with William, what's the best place?
Yeah, man. Just I got a website, www.mckenziepllc.com.
Love it. Awesome. Thank you so much, William, for being on. Really, really appreciate it. Grateful for you. And that's a wrap on this episode.
Thanks.